Welcome to our daily reflection for this Sunday, November 2nd. And today is All Souls as we commemorate the faithfully departed. And so, of course, yesterday was All Saints' Day, and we celebrate the victory of the saints because they are with God in heaven. And of course, for all souls, the church prays for all the dearly beloved, our friends and our family, all those who have passed away. And we're praying because they may be going through purgatory, what we call purgatory, on their way to be in God's full presence. And so as we pray for these souls, the church reminds us, in fact, November, the entirety of November is the month dedicated in the church's life to remembering our faithfully departed. And so I like to make a list of all my family and friends who've passed away, co-workers, and I pray for them every day in my morning prayer during the month of November. And then another great thing to do is, you could put up pictures. So my wife will have a picture of her parents that we'll have in the house to remind us to pray for them and to remember them. So it's a beautiful thing to do. Think about what you can do in your home to remember your beloved who are now with God, hopefully, and pray for them. And that's one of the beautiful things we do. We want to make intercede and pray for our friends and family who've passed on, and we pray that they may be in God's presence. And that's a beautiful work of charity and love that binds us together because God is our Father. He loves us, and He wants us to grow in community of love with one another, even our faithfully departed. And so that's a beautiful thing. We can pray for them, which is really a remarkable gift in God's economy of salvation, that we can pray for the dead and help them. And that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Well, today the readings are so consoling. If you look, I always think back today on all the friends and family and people I know who passed away in this last year, and I pray for their souls. And there's this beautiful passage from Wisdom chapter 3 that you may have heard at a funeral. It's a very common reading and a beautiful one for funerals. And I really love this reading from Wisdom 3 because it gives a lot of hope. The gospel today, Jesus will talk about, on the last day, I will raise you up. And the promise of the resurrection, and that all the souls that the Father has given to Jesus, Jesus won't let them be lost, even by death. And so that idea of Jesus not losing, and then His promise to raise us up on the last day, we get a glimpse of that here of that resurrection hope in Wisdom chapter 3. And what I'd like to do is, there's about a dozen ways that the state of these souls with God in heaven are described, and I find it very, very consoling. And so I just want to highlight the ways in which it talks about the souls of the just who are with God, who have passed away. The first thing, it says that they're in the hand of God. That's very consoling, right? And even in spite of whatever agony and suffering they had in their death, they are now in peace, as it says shortly afterwards. And then it goes on, and they might have suffered tribulation for a while, and yet they had hope full of immortality, and now they are greatly blessed. There's another beautiful image. And then he talks about how that, like gold in the furnace, they were tried and tested, but now He's taken them, as it says, to Himself. God takes these souls to Himself. And that's a beautiful image, isn't it? And even to lose a little child, and I know a couple friends who had that this last year, but the idea that God takes these souls to Himself is a beautiful and terribly consoling image that we should think about. And it goes on, in the time of their visitation, they shall shine. The Lord shall be their king. They shall understand the truth. They will abide with God in love. Again, just a beautiful image. Grace and mercy are with His holy ones. And then God's care is for His elect that are with Him. And so very consoling, very hope-filled readings for us to fill us with hope, not despair. And then we have the psalm for today, which is Psalm 23, which is an incredibly uplifting and hope-filled psalm. This is a psalm I always like to pray along with Psalm 16 when you have the honor and maybe great privilege to sit with somebody on their deathbed when they're dying, in their last days, their last hours. This is a beautiful prayer for that. And of course, the Lord is my shepherd, there is nothing I shall want, right? And in verdant pastures, he gives me repose. And besides restful waters, he leads me. It's a beautiful image of Jesus as the Good Shepherd. You know, this image was one of the most popular in the catacombs. Speaking of our dearly beloved who have passed away, this image of Jesus as a shepherd with a lamb over his shoulders, that is an image that they painted in the catacombs to remind themselves and their loved ones that their beloved who have departed are with the Lord, the Good Shepherd, who cares for them. And that is, again, deeply consoling. So this is a beautiful prayer to pray today. And then, of course, the second reading from Romans 5 reminds us that hope doesn't disappoint. And that, you know, oftentimes, especially when it comes to our loved ones who have passed on ahead of us, we can hold on to hope. We can't hold on to our beloved, but we can hold on to hope for them, that they are with God and that we will be reunited with them in the resurrection. And that's a beautiful consolation that the church gives. And then we read about Jesus. And this passage about the resurrection from John chapter 6 comes in the midst of the Eucharistic discourse of Jesus. And again, it's this promise that I will raise them up on the last day. And he who eats my flesh and drinks my blood will have the Zoe Aionios, the life everlasting. And so that is the great promise Jesus gives. That is our hope. We pray for our beloved who have gone on ahead of us. And so let's make a resolution to pray for our loved ones during the entirety of this month of November, not just today. May the Lord give you this consolation and fill you with his hope and keep you. God bless.
This daily reflection is brought to you thanks to the generous support of the Mission Circle. Join the Mission Circle to help Catholics worldwide understand, live, and share their faith. Sign up at missioncircle.org today.